Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev. This fight is taking place on Saturday this week. A very exciting fight. Me as a Bulgarian, I'm very excited to see what Kubrat Pulev is going to bring to the table. But let me analyze without being biased. Let's just analyze Joshua versus Pulev. Now, Anthony Joshua is a fighter who is very explosive. He's physically strong. He has the genetics, the power. So he has physically he is definitely more dominant than Pulev. Anthony Joshua is a fighter who is very good at the close range. We saw against Dillian White his uppercut. He has a really brutal uppercut, Anthony Joshua. So Joshua is very good at the close range. His hook, left hook, and his uppercut are really brutal. Joshua is not a fighter who is very good at the long range. He is not really successful when he needs to keep distance and jab. That's not his strongest. That's not the strongest part of his game. We saw against Andy Ruiz in the first fight. Stylistically, Andy Ruiz was a very uncomfortable opponent for Joshua because Andy Ruiz is also a close range fighter, a short range fighter, a fighter who tries to get close and use his hooks and uppercuts. The same that Anthony Joshua does best. But the difference in that particular first fight was that Anthony Joshua had to keep distance. He had to win the fight through distance, through his jab, because Andy Ruiz has shorter arms, and when being close, he has a higher chance of punching Joshua. The shorter guy usually, and not usually, but in almost every case, has the advantage over the taller guy when both of them are close to each other. Alright. And we saw Joshua lost against Ruiz. He was dominated in the first fight. An amazing performance by Andy Ruiz because he was the better fighter at the short range. His arms were shorter. In the second fight, Joshua had a completely different approach. He had obviously put a lot of work in keeping the distance. And he did successfully. He managed to win the fight. He won against Ruiz. He won almost every round. But even after that performance, I do not think that Anthony Joshua is a fighter who is good at the long range. No, I don't believe that. I know that he has invested a lot of time in developing himself in the longer range. But still, I don't think that Anthony Joshua is one of the best long range fighters in the heavyweight division. No. Kubrat Pulev on the other side, many people underestimate him. Now, Kubrat Pulev is a jab fighter. He's a fighter who has a very good left hand. He doesn't really use his right hand. He does, but he makes sure that he has already exhausted his opponent, that he has used his jab a lot, that he has jab, that he has jabbed his opponent multiple times. And then comes that right hand. So Pulev is very skilled on a further distance. Pulev is not a close range fighter. He's not a fighter who tries to get in close and win in the close range. No. Pulev tries to keep the distance, to jab, and when the right moment comes, to put that right hook or right straight. And Pulev is not a typical knockout artist. Pulev is not a fighter who can knock you out with one punch. I can't see that Pulev knocks out Joshua with one punch. No. But what I can definitely see is that it's possible that Pulev dominates the fight with his jab. That Pulev keeps Joshua at distance. That Pulev wins those exchanges, those jab exchanges. However, what could possibly happen is that Joshua loses these exchanges, those jab exchanges, but then at some point he explodes, gets in close, and knocks out Pulev. That's very possible. I mean, we saw against Povetkin. Joshua was not dominating the fight. He was not winning that fight. But then he just exploded and he knocked out Povetkin. I think that a similar scenario is very possible. I think that it's very possible that Kubrat Pulev wins those exchanges on distance. That Pulev out jabs Joshua. But at some point, you have to have in mind, Pulev is way older than Joshua. Pulev is getting closer and closer to being 40 years old. So at some point, I think that Pulev will get tired. And then Joshua might explode and knock him out. That's a possibility. But another possibility is that Pulev doesn't lose his cardio, that he stays in shape, that he doesn't get tired. Of course, both fighters will get tired at some stage. But what I mean is, if Pulev remains composed from the first second until the last second of the fight, if he keeps on jabbing, keeping that distance, and uses some combinations from time to time, I believe that Kubrat Pulev has a strong chance of winning via decision. What is also possible is that Pulev jabs, and just annoys Joshua, that he exhausts Joshua with those jabs, and then starts using those combinations, and eventually gets a technical knockout win. I can see that. That is also possible. So in my opinion, what Kubrat Pulev can do is he can actually either win a decision or he can get a technical knockout by just using these combinations, but after using his jab all the time. So the jab will be very, very important for Pulev in this fight. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, I do not see Joshua knocking out Pulev in the first 6-7 rounds. No, I do not see that as a possibility. I believe that the fight will be very close, very even in the first 6-7 rounds. What is important is, after these 6-7 rounds, if Pulev gets tired, then Joshua might explode and just knock him out from the close range with an uppercut or a hook. However, what is also possible is that Pulev does not get tired and Joshua does not get, well, they will both get tired, but not too tired. What is also possible that they both get tired, but they remain composed. But even then, that scenario of Joshua knocking out Pulev is always there. So Joshua can always knock out Pulev, of course. But I do not think that Joshua can win with a decision. I do not think that the jab will be the way that Joshua will win through. No, I think that Joshua needs to get in close, explode, and knock out Pulev. That's my view on how Joshua beats Pulev via knockout. And I don't think that this is gonna happen in the first rounds. I think it's gonna take some time, and then it might happen. Pulev, on the other hand, I think he needs to stick to his jab, to his left hand, from time to time, put that left hook in, and of course, anything is possible. It's a heavyweight division. But I think that this fight, many people underestimate the chances of Pulev. I think Pulev has a strong chance of winning a decision or also a technical knockout using his combinations and dominating through his jab. We will see what happens. Anthony Joshua has been training very, very hard. Now that's very important to mention. I'm following Joshua on Instagram. He looks in phenomenal shape. He's training all the time. He's very, very focused. So I expect a very, very interesting fight. And mark my words, it's not gonna be an easy fight for both of the fighters. Both of them have to be prepared for war.